make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on.
You hear that music? You know what's going on? We're talking Buffalo Bills football. We do it today with our Buffalo Bills Insider. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Bayberry Automotive. Bayberry, where it's integrity and everything, trust. We're talking a lot of the key tenets that you need in the game of football, for crying out loud. All right, but it is time. We do it with our Bills Insider. He's going to be joining us every week throughout the season and right here through the preseason. And it's Anthony Prohaska from Cover One. What's up, Anthony? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be on the show again and to start this routine going forward. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, listen, man, big news out of Buffalo Bills camp this week, and that is the signing of James Cook. He's been the one kind of loose end, dare I say, with the hold in and the not dressing, and then he's dressing, and then we saw him at the preseason game number 1, but he didn't play, but he was in uniform. It seemed like a lot of arm twisting going on, but eventually the Bills get this worked out. It's a 4-year, $48 million extension, along with $30 million in guaranteed money. It seemed like that was a key element here for Cook to get this job done. Let's talk about the contract. Is it a good one? Is it a bad one? And how about them getting James Cook back in the fold? How big is that for Buffalo?
It's important for him to be back in the fold. I think throughout this offseason, right, so much of the conversation started to shift towards how good the Bills' offensive line is, and offensive line coach Aaron Cromer and Joe Brady doing this good job, and how that all kind of creates this successful and stable ecosystem for the run game. And that's all very true. But I think for a lot of fans, the conversation started to shift where it was like, oh, Cook wants too much money. Remove him. You can drop anybody in there and you're going to get a lot of production. And that could happen. You know, I never say never, but Cook is a really strong fit schematically in this Bills offense, and with his ability to play above the scheme and make something out of nothing as much as he's able to. You know, a lot of the runs the Bills have, and teams in general, you'll get those unblocked defenders that are left on purpose. And it's the running back's job to, okay, we blocked it for 5. There's an unblocked defender. You got to make a miss and go do something. And Cook, for the last several years, has been very adept at, okay, you blocked it for 5. I'm making this guy miss. I'm taking 5 to 15 or 5 to 45, 5 to 65. And really just successful in that mold. I think he earned the contract he got. I was surprised the Bills gave it to him. I really thought that ship kind of sailed. Even with the hold in, I didn't think he would be coming back. I thought he'd want too much or cost too much. I think this contract is a win for both sides, more of a win for Cook with the money that he got, the total, what they're able to talk about. But at the end of the day, you want to keep your best players. You want to keep guys that are important. He is one of their best players. He is a guy that's really important. So I do think it is a win for both sides.
And ultimately, you know, it took some time. We mentioned some of the drama, the hold in, the this. He participated at the beginning of camp, which indicated, oh, he's cool. Oh, yeah. Never mind. He's not. And the switch. Yeah, right. So very herky-jerky. Is that just negotiations and you shoulder shrug and say, hey, that's just sort of part of the business? Or is there any hurt feelings on any side? Bills fans, you mentioned. I've talked to a lot of Bills fans who are like, ready to move on from this guy. I'm like, good Lord, the body's still warm here. What are we talking about? So it seemed like there's a lot of juices flowing this offseason. Anything serious that came out of this from any of the sides?
No, I think from a Cook standpoint and a team standpoint, I think everything is fine. I don't think there's any hurt feelings. You know, Brandon Beane did mention, you know, he wasn't sleeping great while Cook was holding in. And he even noted this was his first ever like hold in, hold out. Like he's never had these type of issues during camp. But I think I think a lot of the GMs and front office guys do, they understand the nature of the business. Like this is part of it, especially at this stage. And I don't really think it was anything negative from Cook's standpoint. I certainly don't fault James Cook. Like you guys know, you could go out for practice today and that could be your last snap for the year, for your career. Things can change in an instant. So
Rashawn Slater, right?
Oh, great.
Look at that guy. For God's sake.
There's a multitude of guys that just drop out of nowhere. Landon Dickerson got banged up earlier this week. And like some are, going to miss a couple months. Some guys, it's the whole year. What does it do to you going forward? I will never fault a guy for trying to secure as much financial stability as they can for themselves or for their family, or at any moment, because you never know when it can be your last. And so I don't have any hurt feelings. I don't think there's any on Cook side or Bean side. I think there still might be a little bit for the fan base, just with, how much they were ready, like you said, to jettison him off, especially when the rumors came out earlier this offseason. He wants how much? He's not worth it. Throw him to the sun. I still think there might be a little bit of that, even with the hold in to a degree. I think there's some people that don't like the way he went about it, but I'm sure they'll go over it when he hits like a 45, 50-yard touchdown run in the middle of the season and no one cares anymore.
And it does seem, Anthony, like you recognize how important Cook is to this offense. I really do. And it's interesting because we've talked with different Bills insiders throughout the preseason, and there's a little bit of mixed reviews about whether or not, the Bills would miss him really, really badly versus miss him a bit. I think he's a key part of this. Obviously, Josh Allen is the engine, but, you got to have the spokes in the wheel, and I think he's one of the more important spokes. Give me your thoughts about that.
I think that's a really good way to put it, with the spokes in the wheel. And you've got a really strong engine. Like, you have the offensive line, and you have the MVP and Josh Allen, and again, Aaron Cromer and Joe Brady, and the structure of this offense with condensed formations and the body types at wide receiver and tight end to try to marry more of the run in the pass and be able to access more of the play calling menu without having to turn the page from a personnel standpoint or formation standpoint and limit your tells. So there is a good supporting ecosystem there. But again, Cook's skill set and traits take that system. And while it's a system that maximizes Cook is also the type of runner that maximizes the system, because he can take those runs that are blocked up and schemed up for 5 or 6 and turn them into chunk plays or turn them into house calls. And his progression has been notable. This is a guy who started out as more of kind of like a scat back, primarily a zone runner, pass catcher out of the backfield, the guy you wanted to run against light boxes and in a spread type of offense. And he's kept that same kind of juice and speed. But now he's also become better with yards after contact. He's still the main guy when they're going with 6 offensive linemen and in the low red zone, and he's pushing the pile and run through guys. And I also think he's still getting better. I don't think he's hit his ceiling. So while I do think you could remove him and still have success on the ground, he maximizes what this system does just as much as the system maximizes him.
Anthony, a lot of people have been talking about the show that the Buffalo Bills have been featured on, and I went to go turn it on, but it wasn't Hard Knocks. It was General Hospital, okay, with all these Bills injuries, for goodness sake, coming on here. And I got to tell you, the one that was got me a little concerned is one of the stars of Hard Knocks, Dion Dawkins, quote unquote, aggravated back. And Sean McDermott saying, I hope it calms down the next 24 to 48 hours to be able to practice on Friday against Chicago. Oh, boy. Back, left tackle, Josh Allen, blindside protector. There's a lot of concern here, it appears, for the outside. What say you?
Yeah, the injuries have been very much less than ideal throughout. And again, a lot of teams are getting hit with these. And for as much as the Bills have been hit with a lot of quantity and a lot of volume, fingers crossed, no jinx here. They've been very lucky that, like we talked about just a minute ago, they haven't had a Rashawn Slater or Landon Dickerson, somebody who's a key cog and is out for months or the year. But they have had a ton of this guy's going to miss 2 weeks. This guy might miss a month. Shakir isn't expected back until the start of the regular season. He got banged up during the red and blue scrimmage. This one is very concerning, especially because Spencer Brown, their right tackle, missed the start of camp because his back started to flare up again, and he's had back issues before. He says it was more of him pushing himself too hard in the workout, and he's good going forward. But like we just talked about with Cook, this offensive line is tremendously important to what this team does offensively. If you start to chip away at it from a health perspective, things change significantly and dramatically for this offense. I think Dawkins will be okay. He was also reports that the day after he got hurt, he was dancing as he left the field after he was asked about how his back was. So I think he'll end up being okay. And being able to get through it. But anytime you see anybody pop up on the injury report, you're not pleased, especially when it's a key cog at a key position like Dion Dawkins.
Well, the real question, Anthony, is have we seen him in any local racetracks drifting? Let's talk a little bit about, some people to relax, maybe they get a massage, or listen to some new age music, or maybe some yoga. This guy gets in a car and spins all over the place. And apparently he's getting his kids acclimated to it too. He puts his kids in the car, for crying out loud. I mean, Let's talk about the crazy, behind the scenes stuff and some of the things that we're picking up here in the early stages of Hard Knocks. Now we have 2 episodes in the book so far.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the major takeaways from episode 1. With an episode that I think was really let's just establish a baseline. Let's welcome everybody to, what the Bills are, what they do, who they are. And if you're a Bills fan, you just love that episode in general. But yeah, that was a major takeaway for a lot of people. I saw a lot of comments that was why are Dion's kids in that car? Is that safe? Like, is that okay? Like, was this what he did? Yes, exactly. That face right there from Paul, like that. I don't know. It was kind of like, oh, this is cool. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if this is cool. Yeah, that was, but he's a super charismatic guy. He's a character. I remember we talked about him earlier this offseason. We talked about potential stars coming out of the show. And I think, that moment for him, in this picture here with, just the car aspect and how he kind of, he really enjoys enjoying himself. Like, and I mean that in like the best way positive. Like if there's a fun time to be had, Dion Dawkins is finding it. And I also think, it was cool for him to like bring his kids along. He's a big family guy. You've seen that on the show, and that's been noted and reported throughout like his time with the team for years. But yeah, it's been interesting to see what they've done on Hard Knocks, even though I think for most non-Bills fans, it's been a slow start and a slow burn and a very uneventful first 2 episodes. So I'm hoping that changes a little bit. But it's been fun to see them featured on such a national show like that.
Yeah, Anthony, that's where I wanted to go next because I'm curious, especially for Bills fans, because, you guys haven't gotten this kind of spotlight ever. Like the Bills are on Hard Knocks. This is a really cool moment. And Bills fans have got the pleasure, if they have, to enjoy other teams. The Jets have been on Hard Knocks multiple times. The Cowboys have been on Hard Knocks, drama and all over the place. There's been a lot of stuff. What were expectations for you coming into Hard Knocks? You've seen all the other different versions on different teams. What did you expect before? Now that we're 2 episodes in, what sort of your thoughts, and what are you hoping to see as we move forward? Has it lived up to expectations? Because, regardless of what people think, it's a cool opportunity for you and other Bills fans, Bills Mafia, to enjoy their team with extra coverage. If you love it as much as you do, it's just more stuff to eat up and consume.
Yeah, it's, my expectations for it were kind of like muddied and mixed because exactly like you said, Paul, like what we've seen previously, it's been a lot of teams that are either higher profile or teams with some sort of like drama or storyline or narrative attached to them. And the Bills as an organization are very keep to themselves, tight-lipped. They are like Sean McDermott is not a spotlight seeker. Neither is Brandon Beane. You don't really hear a lot of leaking like coming out from like, oh, they're reported like sign this guy or trade for this guy. Like even the Stephon Diggs trade years ago was the prime example. There were no rumblings of that. And then out of nowhere at like 10:15 at night on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, they trade for Stephon Diggs. You just they don't give you a lot to play with. And so I thought it was interesting that an organization like that would go on a show that's all about behind the scenes and peeling back the curtain and breaking the fourth wall and everything. And so I wanted to know who would give more and who would take more. And I think the Bills have taken more. These first 2 episodes being more kind of like slow and boring and uneventful, I think that's very reflective of how the Bills like to go about their business, like almost to the point, like I don't know how much like editing power they have, but I feel like anything that's juicy or fun, they're like, nope, that's got to go. Nope, that's got to go. Like even the episode 2, I thought they'd lead off with the Cook holdout and talk about the Cook holdout. Instead, it was mentioned, they lead with Joe Andreessen being a Buffalo guy. Then they bring the Cook piece in, but instead it's just like, he's holding in, but he's showing up to every practice. He's a great guy. He's engaged. Bean loves him. Everybody, it was like, oh, so it's a really positive spin on it. Like, it seems very much like the Bills have control of the wheel and they're pointing fingers and they're directing this, and which makes me really interested to see what happens going forward. I just want more game footage. I love hearing dudes mic'd up in games, mic'd up in practices. I love hearing, specific coaching pieces from the coaches and what they're telling someone to work on with their technique or their form. So that's really what I'm there to see. I like some of the fun stuff and behind the scenes pieces as well, but I'm not expecting a lot of that. I just want more. Anytime I can get more mic'd up, real action, I want that, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, more football, right? Yeah, people do like that. I mean, if you don't have the dramatic off the field storylines, then take us inside, right? That's what Hard Knocks was designed to do. I mean, Paul and I were at Bills camp last week, and to see how close those cameras are allowed to get. I mean, the regular media, hey, stay on the track outside. A couple of guys, a little closer to the team, venture onto the grass. Dare to go a few feet closer. Hard Knocks is like in the huddle. Yeah. They got a mic like over the top. They're getting the emotional professional, the Raw. They're all around it. There's 7 or 8 camera crews. They got these movie-looking cameras like they're shooting a feature film. Yeah. It's like, wow, okay, they spent a few bucks on this, you know? Hey, speaking of fun guys, since we mentioned Dion Dawkins, I was lucky enough to have a little conversation after practice with Dan Feeney. I don't know if you know much about Dan. He's an entertaining guy. What I really enjoyed about him, Anthony, is what I enjoy about a lot of players sometimes when I cover teams and go to practices, or in this case, training camp. And that is, he took the time to say, hey, you know, I'm Dan. And you are, you know, introduced himself, a handshake. Same thing with Paul, who was shooting the video while I was interviewing Dan. Made sure that he knew who we were before we started interviewing. So many of the players are just like, what, go ahead, you know, talk.
Yeah, go on, say your piece. Let's go.
I want to get off the field. I got other things to do. And Dan was very engaging and a nice guy. And I know he's a bit of a party animal. And there's a whole other side to Dan Feeney. So it sounds like the Bills do have some fun guys certainly on this year's roster.
Yeah, it's I think they've built an interesting mix, especially with what they've been in previous years. And I think this is also still a team that is in the bit of like a leadership change, and not a culture change because the culture is established. But I mean, even just going back to last offseason, like you had lost Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer and Mitch Morse and Stephon Diggs and a lot of guys who were like the tone setters at the top. And now they're kind of switching that and changing that into, okay, is it more of Greg Rousseau and Terrell Bernard and Taron Johnson and Josh Allen? And that's changing. But I also think someone like the underbelly as well, like with having some more characters. I mean, Matt Collins was a huge character they had last year. And I think, you know, adding more kind of personality to the team, I think you would see that reflected more throughout the depth chart than you do at the top. But even at the top, I mean, again, Dion Dawkins has enough personality for 7 different teams, let alone the Bills. But yeah, I think they have a fun mix of kind of culture, leadership, but some fun and some entertaining pieces as well, which I thought we'd see more of, even that on Hard Knocks. But it's just been, you know, Dion at the racetrack, KJ Hamler a little bit with the whole scooter situation. That was fun. Yeah. But yeah, they have a good mix of personalities on this team.
Talking with Anthony Prohaska, Cover One, our Bills insider. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Bayberry Automotive, where it's integrity in everything. Let's just take 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about our friends at Bayberry.
Trust is everything when it comes to auto repairs. At Bayberry Automotive, they take trust seriously. Bayberry has a team of experienced and certified mechanics that are dedicated to providing exceptional customer service. And Bayberry stands behind its work with an exceptional 5-star rating from its many satisfied customers. Family run, integrity in everything. Bayberry Automotive, BayberryAutomotive.com.
Located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool.
And Bayberry closing in on a second location. We'll have that in our new commercial, Boy Green, once that's all signed, sealed, and delivered. Looks like it's going to be sometime in the fall during football season. A second location right here in Central New York. Again, talking with Anthony Prohaska, our Bills insider from Cover One. Go ahead, Boy Green, jump in.
Yeah, you know, speaking of, you know, the wonderful reviews from Bayberry Automotive, that was cool to see on the screen. And we're going to learn more about Anthony because we're doing, you know, weekly conversations with Anthony. He's a podcast host at Cover One, and his show, Disguised Coverage. So, Anthony, you know, Bayberry Automotive is getting all these interesting reviews. What's the most interesting review you've ever gotten on your show from a fan? A comment, or whether it's been on iTunes or wherever the podcast can be had? What's the most interesting response you ever gotten to your show?
Wow. Great question. Interesting. Oh, you know what? I don't know if this counts as interesting, but it's always the ones I appreciate the most. I do like the same kind of intro every time. And I have several lines, like one line from the movie Casino that I love, and like a couple references to like different movies and things that I like. And then I always have a Christmas tree up all year round, and I change the garland based on whatever holiday exists in that month. Or if there's like, again, like Bills football starting, so I just have it red, white, and blue because it's Bills colors. Come Christmas holiday time, I'll move the little guy over there, and then I have a giant like traditional Christmas tree there. I think my favorite things are when I change the tree and people notice in the comments and they comment. Like they'll be like, oh, hey, like love the St. Patrick's Day theme on the tree. Love the pastel garland for the Easter theme tree this year. Like really well done. Or people will notice the ornaments I put on it sometimes. I think it's me not drawing attention to that, but people have been watching long enough to know that
on their own.
I keep it up all year round, and I don't have to say I changed the tree, and people naturally realize that. It's sincerely one of my favorite things. That, and it'll be the opposite. I'll get a new person who watches, and their first comment is, why is there a Christmas tree up? it's like July or it's March. And then I'll get people that'll respond and be like, it's a theme. You must be new here. And I'm just like, oh, that's like, it's just.
You don't even have to say anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. I agree. I think our backgrounds are fun little places. You can't see it too much in this. You can kind of see it right over my shoulder. Boy Green, if you want to punch me out to a full screen. But I have today I have a Malik Neighbors jersey sitting over my shoulder, right? I'm a diehard Giant fan. That's actually an LSU jersey that's sitting there. And I got a comment from somebody the other day we were doing a pod with about it. And I said, oh, yeah, I change it out, by the way. I get, sometimes it's a 44 Syracuse jersey. Any of the jerseys that are in my closet are fair game to throw up there. And I like to kind of change it out. I love when people notice it. So you can bring us back to the 3-shot, but it's kind of cool when people kind of appreciate what's going on behind you. And they kind of look for little ingredients about you as a person or your personality or the things that you like. I'm kind of an equal opportunity jersey kind of guy. So a lot of times I'll be wearing all kinds of different baseball caps. They say, why are you wearing Chargers today? Because I like powder blue. I like the look of it, and I don't mind the Chargers. I might be a diehard Giant fan, but I love the Chargers.
So I'm a huge jersey guy as well. And a lot of times, I have probably between hockey jerseys, basketball jerseys, football jerseys, and soccer jerseys, I probably have 65 to 70 different jerseys. And I'll rotate in a lot of them during different shows. Nice. Not really planned. Sometimes I'm like, I feel like wearing a jersey night, and I'll rotate in. But I will get why? Like I wore a Steve Atwater Broncos jersey, and I remember someone was like, "This is the Bills show." Yeah, they were like, "Oh, why, this is the Bills show? Why is he wearing a Broncos jersey?" I was like, "Cause Steve Atwater's awesome, and this jersey's awesome." It was the 75th anniversary one with it was the white, and then it's like the orange, and then the blue. That was ones from 94, 95. The year the Niners won the Super Bowl. Yeah, and so I'm a big jersey guy. I respect it. I like it.
By the way, real quick.
Different mothers. Boy Green, how many you have before you say that? How many you have?
It's kind of like the fish story. Every time someone asks, I like just keep increasing.
I think it's over 100.
I'm not really sure what it is, but it's somewhere in the 75 plus range.
Okay. Right.
In
so
the
closet. In the same realm. Okay.
Love it.
It's so heavy that I was just in there because I was grabbing a few different polos, and the weight of the bar that's holding those going
hard to do the
jerseys are heavy.
Yeah. So that's something I'm going to have to look into reinforcing here in the near future. But big jersey guy here, I get it, Anthony, that Hard Knocks isn't willing to go into the drama. I am. So let's go into this because I saw this quote and I'm like, oh boy, that looks questionable. So let's throw this up. This is Sean McDermott on Cole Bishop. Quote, Cole has missed quite a bit of time. It remains to be seen what he is truly able to do for us. We're getting short on time. That was him talking about it. And shout out to Alex Brasky here, who said that he missed mandatory minicamp at 6 of the 12 practices due to injury in the preseason game up to this point of this tweet. So, boy, that when I read that comment, I don't know how it was delivered because I didn't get to see
them fighting words, as they say.
Oh, boy. Cole Bishop, and he's a second-round pick. Those are supposed to be big-time contributors to a football team.
Yeah, and it goes back to his rookie year last year as well. He missed, that safety room was still kind of in flux, and it was like, okay, really, this is the first year without Poyer and Hyde. Who's going to win it? We think Taylor Rapp is penciled in. They take Bishop in the second round. They bring in Mike Edwards, and then they still have DeMar Hamlin. And it's like, okay, who's going to win the job? Edwards gets hurt in the offseason, is hurt continuing into camp, ends up not making the team, mainly because of injury. Cole Bishop, you want to see what he can do. He gets hurt, doesn't really play a lot, and then he misses everything really up until week 3 or 4. No, the game against the Texans, really. So Hamlin ends up stepping in as the starter. And then going into this year, it's like, well, it's probably going to be Bishop and Rapp. Bishop starts off camp as the starter, and then he gets banged up again. And I think this quote is very poignant and direct from Sean McDermott, and I think it's reflective of where he is right now, which is he needs time on task to develop. I've talked about it in different spurts. His best reps for me at Utah, him and Sione Vaki, who plays running back now for the Lions, they were these awesome monster men type of safety. You wanted to get them in and around the box, like big nickel, apex type of guys. They could play a little deep, but Bishop's experience doesn't really come in the ways the Bills need to use him in these too high looks, post safety type of stuff. And he needs time on task to get developed and accustomed to that and acclimated to that. And the more time he misses, the more it significantly jeopardizes what he's going to be this year, but also going forward. And that's just aside from, is he injury prone. Like that's another concern. It's definitely very much less than ideal for a position group the Bills need answers at.
All right, final one from me, Anthony, and it's this. So when we look at teams that are supposed to be contenders, and I think we could put the Bills in that category, we're always talking about, all the great players. What's the one weakness? What's the one thing on this Bills team that you're concerned about at this point as we're just a couple of weeks from the season?
The spine of the defense. I think for as much as they leaned into penetration and inside rush and, okay, we're going to get Larry Ogunjobi. Okay, we're going to draft TJ Sanders. Even Dion Walker, monster of a man. He's not a plugger. He's a penetrator. He's a gap shooter. I want to know if they are going to get blown off the ball or not when teams want to run the ball against them, which was a significant issue last year. And I don't think it got picked up on enough because they would do enough to take the ball away defensively or hold someone to a field goal. And then the offense would score multiple times. And before you knew it, it was like 14-3 or 21-0. And then opponents had to be like, okay, we got to pass the ball. We got to get away from the run. The best way the Bills defended the run last year was with game script. And if the game script didn't help, they had to use body after body and gap out and stack the box. So that's my biggest concern. If the game is close, if teams have the ability to run the ball, do the Bills get displaced and blown off the ball vertically and horizontally? I think that's a legitimate concern, and it's an answer that I need to see, and we won't get it until the regular season.
All right, Anthony Prohaska, Cover One podcast. You got to check him out. Awesome stuff. Will be joining us pretty much every week throughout the entire preseason and into the regular season, talking Bills football.